Okay, call planning zoning meeting order. Start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please everyone stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, a roll call. John Matthews.
Here.
Terry Barkowski.
Here.
Mark Denny.
Here.
Alex DeMauro.
Here.
Wolf Smith.
Here.
A.W. Hempel.
Here.
Jeanette Holloman.
Here.
Jeff Spee.
Here.
And myself, Steve Rosenthal, now all 9 members present. Do we have a motion on July minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the July minutes.
Second.
Smith made the motion, and I heard John.
Was a motion to tie. I don't care who you pick. Everybody awake?
Okay, I have a motion on the floor with the second to approve July minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. John Matthews?
Yes.
Terry Barkowski?
Yes.
Mark Denny?
Yes.
Alex DeMauro?
Yes.
Will Smith?
Yes.
A.W. Hempel?
Yes.
Jeanette Holloman?
Abstain.
Jeff Spee?
Abstain.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 7. 2 abstain. Secretary's report.
Commissioners, I don't have anything to add. We don't have anything on the consent agenda, just the regular agenda, so we'll move forward.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Jeanette? Well, okay. A motion on the floor with the second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? I hear roll call vote. John Matthews?
Yes.
Terry Barkowski?
Yes.
Mark Denny?
Yes.
Alex DeMauro?
Yes.
Wolf Smith?
Yes.
A.W. Hempel?
Yes.
Jeanette Holloman?
Yes.
Jeff Spee?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 9-0. Any declarations? No, we'll start off with first agenda item. Case number DEB 19-064, consideration application for a special use permit for a small limited business, Skyline Screen Printing, on a tract of land located in the southwest quarter of Section 11, Township 10 South, Range 22 East of the 6 p.m. in Leavenworth County, Kansas. Request submitted by Ronald and Lucinda Asher, also known as 24836 154th Street. This does require a public hearing. Staff report.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. This is case number DEV 19064, the renewal of the special use permit for Skyline Screen Printing. This business has been in operation since 2002, and the permit was last renewed in 2014. This business is operated out of the 40 by 70 foot building that was permitted and constructed for the business operations. They receive and generate up to 3 deliveries a week, and typically there are up to 3 customers per month who visit the site. There is sufficient parking adjacent to the accessory structure. The applicants are the only employees. The printing activities do not produce sound or odors outside of the building. They have a wastewater holding tank that contains all liquid waste from the operation, which is disposed of by express septic and grease trap cleaning. There have been no complaints regarding this business. Staff recommends approval of case number DEV 19064, special use permit for a small limited business, Skyline Screen Printing, subject to conditions. The applicant can answer any questions you may have, as can we. Thank you.
Can you put the conditions on the board? I think I gave the wrong address. There was 2 on my sheet here, and it's supposed to be 22983 154th Street. For some reason, there was 2 addresses on here. Yeah, so I just want to clarify that, so we got the right address. Public Works have any comment?
Let's take a look.
we do not have any comment on this.
Okay. Any questions of staff?
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you please tell me how the traffic impact fee is calculated?
So we have a formula that we use. It has been the same formula for a while. We take the amount of trips that the applicant tells us that they, so deliveries, people who visit the site, we take all of those trips and put it into the formula, and that's how it's calculated.
Okay, so it's not necessarily by the mileage on the road or anything like that?
It's just the amount of trips.
Okay.
Are you guys looking at that, though? There wasn't something brought up with the county commissioners that looking at the traffic impact fee?
I believe we have a number of policies which are going to be reevaluated. As Krista stated, this traffic impact fee is the same fee we've had, the same formulation we've had for, I don't even know how long, but
We question it about every meeting,
a
too.
very long time. So, yes, hopefully soon-ish,
Yeah.
this will be updated and clear. Because we just have a fee that Public Works, a formula, excuse me, that Public Works a long time ago provided to us, and we put in the appropriate numbers, and it gives us the amount.
Are you guys saying this fee is low or high?
We don't think it's anything, it just is what it is.
It is what it is.
Commissioner Holdeman, maybe she had
We've
a.
seen some that seem to be very low and some that
Yes.
seem to be very high, but,
From watching meetings, it seems like they vary tremendous.
yeah.
They do, they vary based upon the number of trips coming.
Yeah.
Some businesses have nobody who comes, literally nobody, one delivery a month, while others have, 10 or 15 people a day. So it will absolutely vary wildly depending upon the use and the number of trips per day.
So I can't bite my tongue because this is like one of my pet peeves. But
Yeah.
You're asking me, it's incredibly low because you're talking $220, and nothing against the applicant on this particular case, but $220 for 10 years, that's $22 a year. That's not even
$92 a month.
half a tank of gas for a year.
Yeah.
So that's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Their taxes are totally different also though, right?
The taxes could change because it does go with the use of the property. And if it is a special use, isn't that right, David? I know it goes by use of the property, not by zoning, so,
Mr. Chairman, members of this commission, first of all, welcome, Mr. Spink. Good to have you on board. The county appraiser's office sets the value, which then leads to the taxes upon the property. How the county appraiser calculates those values is entirely up to state law. It is based on use, and it's based on formulas that are provided to it by the state.
so if they know there's a special use on it and it's used for business, yeah, it's going to be taxed as a business instead of a resident.
So they're getting double taxed.
Well, not necessarily double tax, but.
Probably a little bit higher.
They'd be higher, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, if they're being taxed as a business versus a residence, and then they have to pay the traffic
Impact fee.
impact.
Yeah, but tax goes to different, doesn't go to just only roads.
And it's still a heck of a lot cheaper than if they were in the city.
Yeah.
A heck of a lot cheaper.
Sure. Anyway, any other questions? Hopefully we come up with a better solution, or at least one that seems better anyway. Now I'll open it. Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item, upon recognition, will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward? Please state your name and address, sir.
Ronald Asher, I reside at 22983 154th Street, Leavenworth, Kansas.
You have anything to add to the,
I really don't.
did you see all the, on the board there, we have all the requirements? I
Yes,
know
and
you've
I'm
been-
looking at them here.
Yeah,
They seem to be fairly much in line
Okay.
with what I've
All right.
done the last two times.
okay, yeah, I know you're kind of experienced at it, so they're probably the same as they've been before, pretty much, except Except for you got 10 years, you probably only had 5 before, didn't you?
Well, the first one, there was a little mix-up in that someone slipped up and wasn't filed immediately, and I don't remember how long the time period was, but it was supposed to be 5 years, and I think it kind of got lost in the shuffle for a couple of years, but
Oh,
yeah, the last one was 5 years.
yeah, okay. All right, so you don't have any questions on any of those?
No.
Okay. All right, anybody have a question of the applicant? Thank you, sir. We'll now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this request? We will now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in opposition to this request. Anybody here wishing to speak in opposition? Is there any additional information to be presented? The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there any comments or questions, commissioners? Or I will entertain a motion.
I have a motion that we approve case number DEV-19-064
With staff recommendations.
with the staff recommendations, yes.
I'll second it.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor with a second to approve case number DEV 19-064, application for special use for a small limited business, Skyline Screen Printing, with staff recommendations 1 through 9. Is there any discussion? Now we have a roll call vote. John Matthews?
Yes.
Terry Burkowski?
Yes.
Mark Denny?
Yes.
Alex DeMauro?
Yes.
Will Smith?
Yes.
A.W. Hempel?
Yes.
Jeanette Holman?
Yes.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 9-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item on August 30th, 2019 at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Is that date right, the 30th? Okay, I want to make sure. Any person wishing to file a protest petition must contact the Planning and Zoning Office. Protest petitions must be filed with Leavenworth County within 2 weeks of this meeting. To be valid, the protest petition must be signed by owners of 20% of the land area in the notification area. Good luck to you, sir. And August 30th.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Case number DEV 19-0 and Article 50 again. For the Leavenworth County zoning and subdivision regulations submitted by planning staff. Staff report.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This is case number DEV-19-067. As you can see, we have several text amendments. I'm going to go through these one by one. If you have any questions, just stop me and we can talk about it. If we need to, or we can get to the end, it's completely up to you. Some of these are pretty straightforward, a couple of them are less so. The first article is Article 3, that's found in definitions in Section 2. The current definition for a private street or road is specifically prohibits private streets and roads in Leavenworth County. We have been directed by the Board of County Commissioners to bring a new definition for private roads and also a change to the private road allowance within Leavenworth County, specifically to allow them. That's why we're bringing this forward to you. So essentially what we have done, as you can see, we put the original definition and then the proposed definition. The proposed definition, like I said, would allow a private road. The proposed definition is a non-dedicated way other than driveways that form the principal vehicular access to 2 or more properties. Any private road providing access to more than one residence, including farmsteads, shall provide an easement which shall conform to the required county right-of-way standards before any building permit will be approved. That is the proposed definition. It's very similar to the previous one, but we good to keep moving on so we can approve these all together. We don't have to do them separately. So,
First of all, I just have one
Yeah.
question. Are the definitions in the back of the regulations, or are they up?
they're up front. They're Article 3.
Okay.
So, up front.
Just as a suggestion, it might make it easier when people review these and read these to add behind it where it's at, like see section 40, comma N.
Okay, so, okay,
Just an idea. Makes it-
sure, yeah, so it's Article 3, Section 2 is how they're spelled out.
But,
That's how you would find it.
yeah, but it's in section 40, article, or, yeah, section 40, comma N, is where it actually talks about it.
We're going to get to that also.
No, I
We're
know.
changing it in both places.
I know that, I understand that.
Okay,
I'm just saying if you link them together.
in the regulations, I
Yes.
understand.
Yeah,
Okay.
just an idea.
Sure, that is a good comment. So, and then we're moving on to Article 22, special use permits and temporary use permits. We have to change the part about protest petitions because we went from a 3-member board to a 5-member board. It's no longer a unanimous vote that's required to overturn a planning commission recommendation. It's a 3/4 vote. So that is the change. It's one teeny tiny change at the very end where it says such permit shall not be approved except by at least a 3/4 vote of the Board of County Commissioners. So that's all we're changing. Like I said, it is specifically because of the change from a 3-member board. This next section of Article 22, this is specifically regarding temporary use permits. As some of you may be aware, temporary special use permits are taken to the Board of County Commissioners. We get several of them every year that are the same. It's the same fun run, it's the same charity event, it's the same garage sale, the same. Board of County Commissioners have asked us to craft regulations which would allow some things to be approved at the staff level, specifically if they're things that we know are coming in so that we don't have to take them to the Board of County Commissioners. So what we've done is we have separated things into types. Type 1, Type 2, Type 3 would be able to be approved at the staff level. Those are, again, those fairly common events. One of those is the fireworks stands. One of the things that we are looking at changing is the fee based upon fireworks stands for that fee to actually reflect staff time. Mr. McGaha has to make several trips out in order to complete his state-required duties, and the $100 fee that we currently charge doesn't quite cover it. We are not talking about a substantial increase in the fee by any stretch of the imagination, but something that would cover the costs associated with the required inspections. But other than that, it would be able to be approved at staff level. The Type 4 and Type 5, those are more intense things, concerts, asphalt plants, lay down yards for Westar, other electric utilities. Things that would be more impactful on neighbors and surrounding people and might have a longer duration. Those things would still be required to go to the Board of County Commissioners to get approval. Would still require notification in the newspaper and to surrounding property owners. We would continue private events as defined in Article 3 of these regulations would not be required to have a temporary special use permit. Article 31, amendments, also known as rezonings. This is the same as the protest petition. We are just changing from a unanimous vote to a 3/4 vote, again, because of the change in the board. Article 50, this is another direction that has been given by the Board of County Commissioners. We currently have a maximum length of a maximum length of cul-de-sacs in platted subdivisions. Depending upon the type, it's either 700 or 1,300 feet. Some of you are very familiar with this because of previous applications that we have had. We have been directed to remove this regulation, not putting a limit on the length of the cul-de-sac. So we have proposed to strike that from the regulations, and the other things would remain. The final text amendment that we are proposing is, again, Article 50, private roads or streets, providing a little more clarity about what would be allowed. It also, we're clearly stating that private streets shall not be owned or maintained by Leavenworth County. That is certainly a risk that somebody would take if they decided to build a private road. Leavenworth County will not come plow it. They will not come put chip and seal on it. They will not put rock on it. It is your road. It is your road to maintain. We have said that it needs to be a minimum of 25 feet wide, and there should be a 40-foot building setback line, which is similar to internal subdivision roads. The roads would need to be marked that they're private roads, and Leavenworth County does not maintain those roads. And then we have some, if a gate were to be built across the road for some reason, it's a private road, that could happen. There are provisions in which they need to take into account. Those are all of the text amendments that we have. We are recommending approval of these, obviously. This is a public hearing item, and certainly we would love to hear your thoughts and inputs on these different regulation changes.
On the cul-de-sac, I mean, there was a reason why it was limited. You know, why is that not something that's of a concern all of a sudden?
Sure. So traditionally, the reasoning has been for life safety, for, like we've talked about quite a bit. So you've got a fire truck or an ambulance or something trying to get in there. We don't want to have long, roads to nowhere. Also, the number of lots that could be along, a 1,300-foot subdivision, or cul-de-sac, excuse me. I think some of the rationale is out in the county, we have really large lots, so even along a long cul-de-sac, you're not going to have that many houses, not like you would in a city, or places that have smaller lot zoning. So maybe there's less concern about that helping.
But it doesn't address density on this, right? I mean, it says all of them, it doesn't say if it's...
Right, so currently our minimum zoning district is 2.5 acres.
Well, actually, it's 1 acre, but probably won't really have it.
Correct, yes, in the town of Bear Mountain.
They're already established.
Right, yes, those are, yeah, so.
So it won't do any new ones like that.
Now, one of the provisions that we do have, sorry, that's in private roads, not in cul-de-sacs, but yes, so primarily we are talking large lot residential development.
Any other questions?
Does Public Works have any opinion on the cul-de-sac issue?
We don't, this was kind of long before my time, and as far as we're concerned, the commission has requested this. As long as it is understood in the private roads, we don't have an issue changing the cul-de-sac lengths.
And David, there's no issues legally on any of these issues?
No, there was matters of policy.
Any other questions of staff?
On private roads, like I think Bear Lake subdivision down there, it's private, right?
Correct.
Now, if somebody wanted to do something like that again, is that something Leavenworth County kind of shuns upon, or?
Well, currently, private roads, so Bear Lake is also a planned unit development, so it has a different zoning district, and a planned unit development, if you were giving something to the county, there's an amenity or something like that, kind of get to make your own rules, and that's a very loose explanation of a PUD. But that's why they're allowed to have a private road. They take over maintenance of the private road. They understand that Leavenworth County, they have an HOA, they all pay in, they take care of the road. Typically, private roads in Leavenworth County currently are not allowed. So I don't know if that answers your question.
So you guys don't really care for them as of right now? You don't want like a Bear Lake or Lake of the Forest?
So private roads certainly have their set of challenges. Oftentimes, maintenance does not get taken care of. People don't really understand that they're buying into that road, so they are also required to take care of it. And, when it snows or ices and the county doesn't come out to plow it, they don't understand why. But, yeah.
Commissioner DeMoro, the rationale, at least my understanding of the board, is this. In cases where a subdivision is to be created, removed from the boundaries of a city, and it's unlikely that it'll ever be constructed to city standards, things of that nature. If the property owners wish to, they can build a private road, in which case they could build it to whatever standard they would like, and the county is absolved of the maintenance requirements for it. It's actually viewed as a positive both for potential development and for the county, because you gave the example of Bear Lake. In that case, those property owners, when they buy property there, they know they're getting that road. They should be aware it's private, and the county won't maintain it. And it's no snow removal, no repairs, no maintenance.
Wouldn't that be disclosed in the real estate documents that they're going into a private road?
In all likelihood, Commissioner Bartoski, there would be covenants and restrictions that would show up in any title search.
whatever thing, something that tells people that's happening.
I would imagine they ought to be aware of that if they
A
bought it.
homeowners association shouldn't have covered it. Any of those would have a home association.
Yeah, and that's assuming they have that too.
Well, they would. I mean, how could they? You know, it's part of living in there is having a home association. I'm sure they all have one, so.
Is there any sort of checkup that Leavenworth County does on private roads? Or when they start it, 20 years down the road, or even just 5 years in, you guys check into them?
No, if it's a private road, it's private maintenance by the HOA.
Well, to make sure that they are maintaining it to a decent standard.
It'd be like your private driveway.
So, in these urban districts, we're probably not going to allow private roads, correct? Because the urban district, as the cities see it, does not allow private roads.
Correct, so the regulation change that we have proposed is that private roads would not be allowed in the urban growth management
Okay.
areas.
Right. Any other questions? Continue on. Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. We will now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this request?
Joe Herring, Herring Surveying, 315 North Fifth. Up here more for clarification on the private road situation. And it's directed really to Crystal and staff. If you take a easement and you put it through a property that's owned 5 acres, and you take that easement all the way through at 1320 feet in length, and you have 4 tracks on each side, is that considered road frontage?
Yeah, if it's a subdivision,
It's just a standard subdivision
with a private
with
road.
a private road going through it, that is considered
That would be
acceptable
their road
road frontage. And you would have 8 buildable tracks off of that road if it all, mathematically worked out.
Didn't it say just two properties on it?
Right, yeah, I hate to get into too many of the specifics here, but yes, so say you plat a subdivision and you build a private road, the lots that front on the private road, that would be their road frontage.
It says 2 or more,
2 or more.
yes. So that's my question, is this road going to be considered, or this private road going to be considered road frontage, much like Bear Lake is?
Yes.
And whether it's gravel or whatever, is that going to be sufficient for the
That would be the road frontage.
next question? You want to go 2.5 acres in a 5-acre zoning with a private road, does that go PUD? I mean, we just approved a PUD, so that's why these questions are coming up now with planned unit development. Is that an option to clients or developers to do that?
I think that would be a conversation we would need to have in a meeting.
Okay, fair enough. And then the last one, as we were sitting back there talking, your definition states, and this is probably just an oversight, will conform to the required county right-of-way standards. I would assume 60 feet.
Sorry, I said 25 feet.
And then later in 25, we had conversation of most private roads in the past have been, people come in and say they want the county to take it over. To get it taken over by the county, it has to be built to county standards before they'll accept it. If we do 25-foot wide easement with 40-foot setback, and they got to bring it to standards that is 60-foot wide and another 30-foot easement, mathematically it doesn't work. I mean, if the house is already built too close, does that kind of lock them in?
Why wouldn't you have I think the road should be a standard, don't you? Be a county standards, because it could be turned over to county at some point.
The only way it will be turned over to the county is if it is brought up to county standards. And part of the conversation in this is some of these potential private roads that have been discussed with staff and with different developers and such, is that the county doesn't necessarily want to maintain, these roads to nowhere, because it's tough to get equipment in there, it's resources.
Okay, but if you're talking about several lots that could be on this road.
Sure, so that's something
And you're
they-
gonna have to talk about emergency equipment getting in.
Correct, which is why the 25 feet wide. These are things that a developer would need to heavily consider if they were proposing a private road, or the things that you were talking about. Well, what if? Which these are why we have meetings, usually several meetings, before an application actually comes in, so that we can talk about these things, the concerns. And, there are ups and there are downs, there's two sides to everything, right? But we try to go through and make sure people are aware of all of the options and what the downfalls of some of those options may be, or what some of the benefits of those options may be. But certainly, if there's concern, the board you can give me direction and what you would rather see, and you can make that recommendation to the Board of County.
I think that needs, have a better look myself. What do you guys think?
Well, or at least state in there that if you don't, you got a minimum for that private road, state in there that if it doesn't meet the county standards, that it could never, that the county will not ever assume responsibility for it.
Yeah, so it says private streets shall not be owned or maintained by Leavenworth County under any circumstances.
Then it's a moot point.
So,
I think Crystal, I agree with Crystal on that, is that it's up to the developer and the owner. Buyer beware, owner beware.
So you're saying that if the developer can see that, someday this might turn into a county road, they better go 60-foot wide.
That's what I would
Bigger
do.
setbacks.
Right.
Setbacks,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And to me, though, that I like that personally, because it gives the flexibility. Because
Yep.
if you don't want to do that, then you know that, hey, this is it,
It's going to be private forever.
right? It's going to be cheaper to build.
Oh, by far.
And that's part of the discussion we have when someone wants to do that, right, Crystal?
yes.
I think that takes care of it.
Right, for or against?
You're still
Well, actually, I
for,
got-
we're still for, but,
Okay, I thought you said for or against. I'm sorry.
yeah, you're for. It's people who
No,
are
actually, I
for.
will say I am for, first off, David Lujan, 15554 Elm Street, Baster, Kansas. I am for the length of the cul-de-sac being removed. That's a city regulation. You look at basically any city regulation around here, you're going to see that length, where you got 50, 60 foot of road frontage. So county, you got a minimum of 200 feet out in the county, so definitely agree with getting rid of that requirement in the regulation.
And that's all, okay.
That's
Thank
all
you.
we're for.
Okay, that's all you're for. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this request? Now we're here from individuals wishing to speak in opposition to this request.
I was coming against.
Now, what are we opposition about?
Dave Lujan, 15554 Elm Street, Baster, Kansas. Several new faces up here since the last time I was up here. So for those of you who don't know me, I am a civil engineer. I am the former Public Works Director for Leavenworth County. So I take roads pretty seriously. Roads should be designed and constructed to current engineering standard and specifications. Private, public, it doesn't matter. They need to be designed properly and constructed properly. And Mr. Rosenthal, you hit it on the head. Fire trucks, ambulances, police cars. There's no standards. I want to build a dirt road, I can build a dirt road. We can't allow that. I mean, that's a big step backwards. So in Leavenworth County, I can think of 3 private roads. You got out by the Field of Dreams, that road's private that goes back there. You got Bear Lake, and then inside of Timber Lakes, there's a short cul-de-sac that's extremely steep, and that's a private road. I worked here in the early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, and then again recently. Both times I was here, I had people from all of those areas contact me. we can't afford to maintain this road. What does it need for the county to come take it over? People don't realize what they're getting into when they buy in these subdivisions. You're in real estate, you know, you deal with it, you probably hear the same complaints. So definitely opposed to any type of private roads. I'm not aware of any county around here that allows anything like this. I think this is a big step in the wrong direction for Leavenworth County. That's all I got.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Is there any additional information to be presented?
Nothing at this time.
The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there any questions or comments, commissioners? I don't like the idea of roads, private roads that aren't up to the standards of the county. I think that's a wrong thing because then they want to turn them over. The houses might not be set back far enough. I think the road should be to county standards. But otherwise, I'm okay with everything else, except for that. But I'll entertain a motion for more comments.
Crystal, what was the impetus behind that? I mean, was that directive from the county commission or?
We have had many discussions and work sessions with the Board of County Commissioners, and there has been some direction on not limiting development or hindering development in Leavenworth County, which is part of why some of these regulation changes are being brought before you.
What I would say minimum, they'd have to have the right-of-way that's required for road. I would say that's the minimum. And if the road isn't brought up to standard, I would say the minimum would be the right-of-way. So that would not have to be, if they do want to go to a road, it's there. We at least don't have to have that, but that would be the minimum, I think, that I would vote for, let's put it that way, in my opinion.
How are the roads that are already private maintained? I mean, do you guys, in your opinion, think they're in good condition, or are they adequate for Leavenworth County to take over, or?
I can probably address that.
Yeah, I'm kind of asking you, but I didn't know if I could.
Bear Lake takes very good care of their roads. The one out by Field of Dreams, I've noticed, and I don't know how it is today, I haven't driven back there in a long time, but at times it's been pretty rough. And the cul-de-sac in Timber Lakes, I can't really say. I haven't been down in a lot of years.
Are those built to standards where Leavenworth County can take them over?
No, they are not.
None of the three are.
Nope. None of them. That's what I was told, we have to bring it up to standard. They just can't, they can't afford to maintain it properly, and they can't afford to bring it up to standard, so the county will take it. It's hard for a group of, road construction's expensive, and it's hard for a group of homeowners to take on that cost. So you should get it done up front, get it done properly, from the get-go, county take it over, public right of way, and then it's done. It's done properly, it's done safe. Safety is one of the most important things. Fire trucks in there, school buses. I don't know if it's true or not, but I was told the school bus wouldn't even go down to the one next to Field of Dreams because it was a private road. I never verified it, but that's what I was told.
I wonder if they are allowed to go down a private road.
I was told by one of the residents they had to bring their kids out to Fairmont Road because the school bus would not come back.
I would guess that would be right.
I don't know if it's true or not. That's what I've been told.
That'd be my guess, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, if you got stuck down there in
They
the
can't
bad
go in
weather.
driveways, I know that, so.
So that's another issue.
If the-
Can't the school bus even go back?
If the commissioners are concerned about, if you let private roads be, that's going to impact economic development, that there will be more economic development. Will it really? You got 3 of them in the county. How many more do you think there's going to be? I mean, I know you can't project that, but
Well, if they can get by cheaper, that they will do it.
yeah, but who's
Long
going to?
run.
That's the question. I mean, is it,
Developer will, because they'll say, then there'll be a home association, and they'll have to take care of it.
The developer's
Cheap
gone.
at the beginning.
Developer's gone, and
the
developer's
developer's
gone.
gone, yeah, I mean.
Yeah. Actually, we just had a situation in Missouri where there were private roads. And the lender wouldn't loan on it because it didn't say in there who maintained the road. Now, they would have to maintain the road there, but it came up, and I guess in that county, there are lots of private roads. But we wrote a contract on it, and the lender said we cannot loan on this property because it's a private road and it doesn't say who's going to maintain it.
I guess my question is there any type of compromise, let's say like we require what we need for the road surface, maybe make sure the easement is there, maybe not quite up to county standards, but at the same time, the easements are there and the type of surface and that type of thing, that may not meet county standards, but at the same time, it's a workable situation.
Yeah, like the minimum of dust abatement.
Yeah, it could be a gravel road, I don't think, but it has to be a county road that meets the minimum standards of width and everything else. I mean, that would be the least I would go, is be gravel.
I was thinking more lines of like a dust abatement road, that type of
Oh,
thing.
that could be too. But
But
we're doing it anyway.
maybe somewhere in there, there's a compromise if we approve the rest and come back to this one, try to sit down and see what we can work out, or what staff can work out.
Can we take that off?
Yeah, of course. So, yeah, we can just
It's
amend
the
them.
last one, Article 50, Section 40N.
Yes, that's correct. I do, before we get too far down the road, pun intended, I guess. I just want to make sure, if we go back to the drawing table, so some of your concerns are ensuring that the right-of-way is a minimum, county road minimum standards of 60 feet, essentially, that would be a
I
local road.
would say at least that, that's my opinion now, guys.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one who's given an opinion.
And that there be a minimum surfacing type similar to the dust abatement program, old dust abatement.
That's a very minimum.
Yeah.
That would be best, yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, and I just think it's important that, we do that in safety. Of course, I agree on that. But to give some options, because like David said, roads are expensive. They're expensive no matter how you look at it, whether you do it on the front end or trying to maintain them or whatever. So I think, to me, I would like to see an option out there available within reason.
Okay, any other comments, anybody?
I think it pretty well states it, that, the option on the design of the road, and what's the minimum standard that we will allow for a private road. At the same time, consider the easement, and do a little work on the easement, if you would, staff.
Well, I know the thought is that if they're going to have to bring it up to county standards, why don't they just make it county road, they don't have to worry about it. Right.
Well, the purpose, is the way I understood to begin with when we read it, that a private road is the intent is it's never going to be brought up to county standards. And if they know that up front, sign the affidavit, the fact that, hey, it's not going to be brought up county standards.
I think either that or it has to be a minimum of how many access points it could have. Because if you're going to make it a whole subdivision, I think that's way too much. If it's a short road for a couple of houses, that might be something also. But you're talking about where you can go ahead and make it a quarter mile long and put in several houses in there. really don't feel that.
Has county standards changed since all these roads were put in?
Much. 20 years old.
Bear Lake's been there a long time, so it might be.
That was gonna be my main question, if they changed from, let's say they gotta be this wide, but you guys have increased it to be wider. So, down the road, if they were before that, they initially built their roads to standards, but
That's part of the reason we have setback requirements, that you can't build right on top of the road with the right of way, so that in the event that something were to happen, there's a little bit of wiggle room. But I do believe that these standards have been the same standards for a pretty long time, and I believe Lauren can probably answer, they're fairly industry standard on some of these, like.
Some yes, some no, to an extent. For example, some of the dust abatements that you guys are speaking of, a program that we currently do, I wouldn't necessarily say they're standards.
The right-of-way width, like
The right
60
way,
feet for a
yes.
local road.
Yeah, that's fairly standard. But counties are different than cities, and cities are different than towns. Everybody's going to have a different idea.
Any other questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve DEV-19-07 with the exception of Article 50, Section 40N, private roads to be relooked.
I'll second.
Sorry, I should have cleared, are you good with changing the definition to allow private roads? Do we want to go ahead and keep that in there, or do we want to pull that out?
I think if the commissioners want private roads because they think that will help development, but make it to where it's not going to be a problem on down the line.
Okay, yep. Just wanted to clarify.
And I feel I just don't have enough information on that subject to know. And I'd like more information before, not only that, but about private roads also at the same time.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
You do?
You did from you?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Have a motion on the floor with a second to approve, I got 2 pages here. Yeah, I got it here better. DEV 19-067, text amendments for Article 3, Section 2, Article 22, Section 3, Article 22, Section 10, Article 31, Section 2, Article 50, Section 40F, cul-de-sacs, and not Article 50, Section 40N. Does everybody understand the motion? Is there any further discussion? Now we have a roll call vote. John Matthews.
Yes.
Terry Barkowski.
Yes.
Mark Denny.
Yes.
Alex DeMauro.
yes.
Wolf Smith.
Yes.
P.W. Hempel.
Yes.
Jeanette Holdeman.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion carries 9-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item at 9 a.m. on August 30th, 2019 at the Leavenworth County Courthouse.
Thank you.
Okay, we are out of the Planning Commission, and we only can have 7 members for the Board of Zoning Appeals. Does anybody?
Mr. Chairman, I'll leave.
Okay. You want me to?
I'll sit here.
Well, you can't sit up here, you can sit up there. Yeah, that's not. Okay, now remember, Board of Zoning Appeals is now have a roll call vote, which,
No. Yes.
Is there something?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
don't have a calendar in front of me, but today's the 14th, I believe.
Yeah, so it technically be
14
the
days from
4th.
today would be
The 4th.
28th.
Well, that's why
Yeah.
I questioned the 30th.
Friday.
And that's why I questioned it earlier, the 30th.
Well, I'm sorry, I perhaps should have said something earlier. Last
Okay.
minute.
It'll be
Okay, it'll be the 28th, won't it?
It'll be the 4th.
Could be the 4th.
Fourth. Okay, all right, that's what I thought, that's why I questioned it, 30th didn't sound right to me. I didn't sign that, okay. Roll call vote on the Board of Zoning Appeals, Terry Balkowski. Present. Mark Denny. Here. Alex Demaro.
Here.
Will Smith's not. A.W. Hempel.
Here.
Jeanette Holdeman.
Yeah.
Jeff Spink. Here. And I'm here, Steve Rosenthal. Got 7 members present. Okay, remember on a Board of Zoning Appeals, it does not go to the commissioners. Our decision is the final decision on this. So we're entering case number DEV 19-075, consideration of application for a variance of road frontage on a tract of land located in the southwest corner, section 21, township 10 south, range 21 east, 6 p.m., Leavenworth County, Kansas, also known as 00000 George Road. Request submitted by Paul and Donna Bartholomew. Sorry if I messed that up. It does require a public hearing. Staff report.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This is case number DEV-19-075. This is a Board of Zoning Appeals case for the minimum road frontage of 300 feet and the, not the minimum lot size. It is more than 5 acres. It's 33 acres. So the minimum road frontage requirement. As you can see, this parcel does not have any road frontage. Some of you may recall about a year ago that Mr. Bartholomew had requested a variance. However, this parcel was in several pieces of land, and we had required rather, that it be surveyed and put together. Mr. Bartholomew has had that done. He does have an easement along the eastern portion of the road. It's a very old easement. It references along the eastern portion of the parcel, excuse me, not the road. It references George Road being a wagon road. It is very old. Nobody disputes that the easement is old. However, I have spoken with both Mr. Malnikoff and Ms. Driscoll, this Register of Deeds and the County Surveyor. It is a valid easement. Mr. Bartholomew will need to access the property via that easement or make other arrangements which would require new easements to be made. So there has been some questions about whether or not he does have an easement. He absolutely does. So we'll go through the factors to be considered as we always do. And Mr. Bartholomew is here, and this is a public hearing. So the variance required arises from such a condition which is unique and which is not ordinarily found in the same zoning classification. The history of this parcel is pretty varied. Portions of the parcel were dedicated by family by deed. Portions of this parcel have also, I believe, been subject to sheriff's sales and foreclosures. So it's kind of been cobbled along over time. The granting of the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residents. The property has been landlocked for several decades. Originally, the parcel was at least 2 separate parcels. The applicant has surveyed and combined the parcels into a single parcel in order to proceed with the variance request. By combining the parcels into a single parcel, this limits the number of potential variances in the future. The granting of this variance will allow one single-family home to be constructed on this 33-acre parcel. The area is designated as rural residential 2.5-acre zoning, and the future land use map calls for this area to be low-density residential. The granting of the variance will not adversely impact the intent of the zoning regulations or the rights of adjacent property owners. The strict application of provisions of the zoning regulations of which variance is requested will constitute unnecessary hardship upon the property owner. The strict application of the zoning regulations will result in the applicant being unable to build a home on the parcel of land. Furthermore, the parcel is very heavily wooded, as you can see. It's not particularly suitable for agricultural activities. Therefore, the strict application of zoning regulations would not allow the parcel to be utilized in any meaningful manner. The variance desired will not adversely affect the public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, or general welfare. The requested variance would not adversely impact these things. Granting the variance desired will not be opposed to the general spirit and intent of the zoning regulations. Again, granting the variance will allow one single-family home to be built on a 33-acre parcel of land that's certainly low-density residential. This conforms to the future land use of low-density residential and will not be opposed to the general spirit and intent of the zoning regulations. As I said, Mr. Bartholomew is here. We'll answer any questions you may have, and this is a public hearing item.
Any words, any comments?
We do not. If there's an existing easement, we don't have an issue.
All right, any questions, staff?
I'm a little confused on where this variance needs to go. What would be what's the access point that you're asking for variance for?
Well, there's no road frontage. That's what he needs the variance for, because there's simply no road frontage, so we can't issue a building permit.
Okay, it appears that it fronts on parallel by the picture you got there.
Sorry, their parallel does not go through there.
Okay, now I understand. So where would the access go?
So his easement, let me pull it up really quickly. Bear with me for 1 second. Is along the eastern portion of the property. I will pull it up.
It doesn't show very good on the, on that boundary adjustment
Yeah.
there. That's what, and then I saw it looked like it was on parallel,
So this hatched line,
so.
see where they reference Wagon Road?
Right.
That's George Road where it kind of curves down. So it comes through these parcels, and it's kind of funny because it comes all the way down this way, but it also comes over this way and then down here. So this portion of his land is kind of the Texas portion of his land, I guess.
So there could be two entrances.
No, there's only one single access point to George Road, right here.
Got that.
Right there.
Okay, and George Road is a paved road?
No, it's definitely not a paved road.
It's not a private road, is
No,
it?
It is a road that is not paved.
But it's maintained by the county.
It's not used very much, it's gravel.
Ish, yes, it is maintained by the county.
I would have to look into that.
It's a,
I believe
It's
Commissioner
a county
Barkowski,
road.
that's a rather, for want of a better word, remote part of the county. And there hasn't been a lot of development in that part of the county. This parcel probably has a long history. George Road, referred to as a wagon road. I'm surprised it doesn't reference either a tree or a rock.
the old legal descriptions did.
So it's an unusual situation, and that's what a variance is for.
But the property owner's perfectly happy with George Road.
Yes.
Got it.
You can ask him.
Any other questions to staff?
I do have one question. I think you said that since there's so many trees on it, they're kind of stuck like that, but if they were to tear out trees and make it more of agriculture use, can you do that? And would they be able to switch it to agriculture, or are they locked in?
Well, if they were to begin tearing out trees, first, if they were to remove more than an acre worth of trees, they're going to have to get permission from the state and do an NOI and such. I have no idea what the terrain, well, I do know what the terrain is like down there. It's very rocky, it's very hilly. It's very, very wooded. I don't know that it would be really feasible at all.
I just didn't want somebody to be locked in if they ever wanted to change
No,
something.
if he had decided that he wanted to tear out trees and try to grow crops, nobody would stop him.
Or cattle, or horses, or
Yes,
goats, or-
no, this is, Kansas and agriculture is heavily appreciated. So we will not stop that.
Any more questions to staff?
One question I have, I was going down through utility service, and I'm wondering whether that's Tonganoxie City or Tonganoxie Township. Township. I wish we would state that when we get, if it comes to Tonganoxie, whether it's city or township. I think it'd be awful tough to get a fire truck up through there.
Any other questions of staff?
There are no restrictions or any additional things they have to comply with?
No. Again, the only thing, the existing easement, as far as staff is concerned, is the easement that he has. If he wanted to access somewhere else, he would need to get the appropriate easements from adjoining landowners.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll continue. Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your name and address. Then begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion is now open. Will the applicant please come forward? The applicant please come forward. Okay.
Paul Bartholomew, 14759, 243rd Street, Lawrence, Kansas, 66044.
Have anything to add, sir?
Yeah, just a quick statement, if you don't mind. Going to read it because I'm not a good public speaker, but I'd like to take a moment up front to thank the members of the council for allowing us to come before you with this proposal. I would also like to thank the members of the planning zoning staff that I appreciate your professionalism throughout this whole process, and would like to apologize if I've ever been anything other than polite in any of our dealings. I've not solicited anyone to come to speak on my behalf. If anyone has come to show support for the cause, I appreciate it. I'll keep my comments brief, but as you've already familiarized yourself with the broad outline of this request, it is a landlocked parcel of ground that's made accessible by a collective prescriptive easement, not a completely uncommon occurrence. But what you may not know is that we've owned this property for over 20 years, and it has always been my dream to build an earth contact or bermed home there. We'd gotten this land from Donna's father, my father-in-law, who had owned it since 1978. He'd also bought it with the intention of putting a more elaborate earth contact home there back in the 70s, which he'd actually got approved to do back in the late 70s, but because he was trying to put a huge dam in at the time, I think there was a flood in Big Thompson Canyon River flood at the time, and that made all the, municipalities and governing bodies tighten up their restrictions so that, that part of it was axed, so he abandoned his plans. But immediately after we got the property, I staked out the perfect area for the house and started acquiring building materials. These plans were put on hold when the property next door, Donna's uncle, we purchased that property and lived on that land for 15 years. But never completely gave up the dream for the earth-burned home on that land, and continued to clear land and dig for a foundation because I still wanted to make that happen. So I even talked to Mr. Zellner years ago, I think in 2004, and gotten a permit, just for a pole barn. That was the first step, to get a pole barn and have that be a starting point, which he agreed to, and ultimately I wound up building that on the other property, the other tract of land that the house was on. So I wish I hadn't done it that way, but so given that expectation, he'd even suggested that I take the septic system certification classes, which I did, because he knew my intent. But, so then when I finally was ready to pull the trigger on, a building permit, I was surprised that, that I had trouble doing it. So, I've met the, the requirements that, let me go back to my text here. Even though I understand why I was requested to combine the two parcels before this application can go forward, though I didn't at the time, for that I'm sorry. I've been here before you guys and on that topic, and I was not I didn't understand why that had to be that way, but I apologize for that. I understand and realize what's going on now. But as you can see, this condition is not one that we brought upon ourselves. We took no action to render this parcel as non-conforming. We took the corrective action planning and zoning requested, and we're not some kind of outside investors or flippers. We are deeply connected to the land and the area. Our kids, one's a sergeant in the Marines and one's a college graduate and now working as a social worker. They both went through the entire Tonganoxie school system, and, we love the land, we love the area, and, it's my fervent hope that you guys would show favor to our family and grant us this variance.
Any questions of the applicant? Thank you, sir. We'll now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. In favor? We'll now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in opposition to this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in opposition? Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there any comments or questions, commissioners? Or I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that case number DEV-19-09-075 be approved.
Second.
You need to cover the factors on the, any motion like this, you need to cover the 5 factors.
Mr. Chairman, it is sufficient under Kansas law if Commissioner Barkowski were to adopt by reference the findings as set forth in the staff report. Rather, it's not necessary he enumerate each one of them in his motion.
Okay.
As per council.
As is outlined in the staff report.
Yes, sir.
Correct. Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
We had a motion on the floor with a second to approve case number DEB 19-075, variance for road frontage. Staff factors
Adopted by reference.
by reference, staff references. Is there any further discussion? Now we have a roll call vote. Terry Barkowski.
Yes.
Mark Denny.
Yes.
Alex DeMauro.
Yes.
A.W. Hempel.
Yes.
Jeanette Holdeman.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 7-0. You are approved, my friends. Anything else?
No, sir.
We're adjourned.